that used on the boardwalk. What's his name? That yeah, he danced masquerade with me because he was going to country day, and first I said I didn't know of him. So every time I coming down the street, we will have our little session right on the corner. He used to be by Mali. So 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and we going down the street for a little bit, you know. And Cora Christian's son, he's a big, I don't know if I know him now. But there's a lot of schools. I went to Juanita. I taught, had a group there, had another group, different group in the school. I had Central High. Claro Marco, we had the Croix. That was the first, and that made tears come to my eye because those guys were in their prime. They were young, energetic, and when that music started, we used to keep it every, like now at the end of this month, going to the first, they used to have a program. And so I was invited to teach them. But we had not the pitchy patchy, the crocus ball up bag, and the mask, everything was covered until they came in with and sent a program saying no child left behind, and that banished the whole thing with what's on Mr. Sidel. That's where I taught them. So I was here, there. What they said, the old people said, throw me anywhere and I'll stick. So I did. Then I had, like, you know, here in Mali, I had all the children. I tried to incorporate the children of Harrigan and Mali. I play music. I do everything with the drum and played my music. And it's fascinating because once you get in that drum beat, you can't get it out your head as old as you be. You say, you want to dance. Any drum that you hear that beating, it's nothing you're going to keep your foot stick together like glue. It's not going to work. You really, really want to dance. And Shalana, I did the bambula when we used to keep, really used to keep the 3rd of July down by the park. We did bambula, we did everything. Judge Andrews, he was there with us. And I honor you people because now I still have one in my audience. I still have one of my masqueraders out there, Saldana. She's with me, whatever we could. Oh, the old people said, took her here and took her there. Even if they tie a string around my waist, I don't dance in the open. I'm not going down the street. But sometimes in the inside, the steps they might want to know because it's not a walk-up thing. So Saldana still keep her grandchildren going and teaching them the dance, and she's with me. When we have, you know, a little thing doing, we talk about it, and I go there along with Lady Mac. So I still have a little group. I can't do the big group thing, but I got a little group, and they stay with me. A lot of them, a lot of my people have gone, and I really, really miss them because if it was 3 or 4, they were there with me, like Sharon Brown. I honored her. I remember she used to put lamp on her head and all kind of stuff, but she used to do masquerade. So, you know, when I think at the time and masquerade coming around, I always think about those people. And I had to tell Saldana to come because I honor her. One of my masqueraders passed last year with his OG sister, Sonia. She was very standard eat too. And I don't care what she was doing, she was there. And she got sick and she passed away. And, you know, it hurts when your masqueraders pass, but we just passing through. I hope I have answered some questions and some thoughts that's in your mind, but even here I'm a masquerader. all the time to my grave. Okay? Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your contributions, everybody. I just want to inform that there is some drinks available in different assortments of flavors if you want to get something to drink. Additionally, we're going to move into our presentations. Do you feel comfortable? Okay, so we're going to have some presentations. And I also want to give a shout out to our partner, Richard Dorsey. If you haven't, please subscribe to his pages on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. He has a wonderful and very progressive program called Dialogue 340. I don't know if persons have experienced it. Yes, you have? Yes. And so, as my partner, and I just want to inform, he's a married man. My community partner, although he is a very handsome man. My community partner, he is here with me supporting this initiative today. So Richard Dorsey, thank you so much. We'll transition right now into using this digital device.
Over here? Okay. Testing. Because I need to. Okay, good evening, everyone. Yeah. Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Shanari Matthew Shangoyomi, and my presentation is called Masquerade, the Unbroken Link, Past, Present, and Future. When we speak about the African origins of masquerade, we are talking about the connection between divinity and humanity. Masquerades are the physical manifestation of an elevated spirit or group of spirits. Masquerades are a bridge between our physical world and the unseen realms. It is a force that is vast, unpredictable, and wise. Masquerades remind us that as humans, we have the potential to elevate our consciousness by honoring moral codes and living in harmony with nature, not separately, but as a part of the whole. You cannot separate masquerade from the ancestors. It is the vehicle from which ancestors descend to pass on wisdom, heal, and ensure the continuity of its people. So the main functions of masquerade in West Africa are, go forward. Yeah. It honors elevated ancestors. It chases away malevolent energies and negativity. It protects the community or village. It heals. It brings abundance through plentiful harvests. It honors women, fertility, and the feminine principle. It chastises for breaking moral codes, and it keeps social order. Masquerades especially come out for rites of passage, especially or specifically when children transition from youth to adulthood. Masquerades in West Africa function to entertain, for important festivals, and to reinforce community coherence with nature. So I'm just going to talk about a few of the masquerades in West Africa. They're so vast and so many. So I've just chosen a few. So the first one is the Zauli. And the Zauli, amongst the Guro people of the Ivory Coast, they honor the Zauli. And the Zauli mask dancer embodies the spirit of femininity and beauty. The dance is done only by males, and it is known for its fast, intricate steps and footwork. And it may take 7 years just to learn the nuances of the dance alone. So the next one we have here is Sosene, And the first rhythm that the Dembaya drummers performed, that was Sosene. So Sosene is this mask from Guinea, West Africa, and it comes from the Baga people. And amongst the Baga people of West Guinea, Bokeh region, if a woman is infertile, has difficulty conceiving, and she sees the mask, she will be blessed with fertility. That's how powerful the mask is. Sorcery is also associated with rites of passage. So this is another mask from the Baga people. And if you notice, Baga masks have height, right? And the Kakilambe is an important mask of the Baga, and it only appears once a year. That's a tabi? Yes. Oh gosh. Oh. The Kakilame protects against evil and negativity and delivers messages to the community through its priests. So they deliver messages on what's to come and whether there's going to be a drought or a flood, or if there will be a good or a bad harvest. This is another mask from Guinea. It's called Sobonikun or Sogonikun. And in the Wasulu territory of Mali, the Malinke people honor Sobonikun. And Sobonikun is a masquerade that comes to celebrate, once again, a good harvest. It's tied to agriculture and farming. So here we have the Eyo masquerade coming from Nigeria. And the Eyo masquerade hails from Lagos. There are two types of Eyo masquerades, Adimu Orisha Eyo and Eyo Olokun. Adimu Orisha Eyo, they're basically associated with ancestral spirits, and the Eyo Olokun are associated with Olokun, the spirit of the ocean, wealth, and mystery. Okay, I don't know why Egungun is not showing. We'll leave that for Baba Onifa Day. But Egungun amongst the Yoruba people of Nigeria are regarded as collective spirits of the ancestors who dwell in Orun, the spirit realm. And they watch over and protect their descendants in Aye, the earth. When ancestors are honored by their descendants, they protect, bless, and advise them. Ararun function collectively to protect against evil spirits, famines, epidemics, and malevolence. Yoruba invite Ararun to visit Earth physically in the form of masquerades, which are known as Egungun. And there are several categories of Egungun in Yoruba land, which include herbalists, hunters, and entertainers. And Baba Onifade will go very much deeper into that. Okay. Now here we have the Ekpe, which is also coming from Nigeria. The Ekpe is a traditional secret society originating from the Efik people from the Croix River State, one of my favorites. Such beautiful people, their dances and their costume and their whole culture is so beautiful. And it is one of the most prominent masquerades in Calabar State. Ekpe, meaning lion, is revered. And it symbolizes strength and authority. The attire features the Nsibidi scripts, which is a sacred and very ancient language. And Ekpe's secret society is one of the things that came with Africans to Cuba. So there's a whole Ekpe secret society in Cuba as we speak. This masquerade is the Dama from Mali, West Africa. And this is primarily the masquerade, one of the masquerades of the Dogon people. And the Dama ceremony honors the Dogon's ancestral fathers so that their legacy is not abandoned. On the Kanaga mask, you can switch to the next one. Okay, one more? No, further forward. Okay, forward. Yeah, forward. Well, backward. Back to the Dama. Okay, so on the headdress, the cross on the top cross, it represents the earth, and the top represents the sky, and the cross on the bottom represents the earth, and between them is the universe, and the face of the mask represents the human spirit. The last Dama was performed in 1999. And the Dogon are one of the nations that have migrated from North Africa, specifically the Nile Valley to West Africa. Okay. We'll go forward. Yeah. Now, this is one of my favorite masquerades. This is hailing from Benin and Togo, and it's the Zangbeto. The Zangbeto are known as the night watchmen or the night police. And they patrol particularly at night. They ward off evil, detect criminals, and protect people from harm. The spirit is housed underneath the conical raffia structure. And there's no person under the raffia. Okay, so move forward. So here is an example that there's no one under the raffia. If you turn the volume, okay. I turn it all the way. I can't see it. I can't see it either. That's it? Yeah. I think I would have to exit. Okay. So just let's move on. Okay, so there we see the Zangbetos moving and twirling. There's no person underneath there. That is the spirit underneath the Zangbeto. Well, animating. So now we're going to move on to Caribbean Masquerade, and through the transatlantic slave trade and through the Ma'afa and through everything, as was said before, we have managed to preserve these masquerading traditions. The functions of Caribbean Masquerade are to express the connection to African ancestry, to mock slave owners, colonialists, and European aristocracy. It demonstrates the strength, defiance, and victory over oppressive systems. It celebrates freedom, expresses creativity and connection to cultural heritage, and it's an expression of life, joy, blessings, and also sexual freedom more recently. So here we're going to start with the Jab Jab. And the Jab Jab are one of the most misunderstood masquerades in the Caribbean. And it is what is known as the Devil Masquerade. And whether it is the Jab Jab of Grenada, Lancet Court of Haiti, the Blue Devils, and Jab Malassi from Trinidad, Vejigantes from Puerto Rico or Diablos Coelhos of the Dominican Republic, their origin story is rooted in defiance, is rooting in resistance, defiance, power, and victory. The term devil was a derogatory term used by slave owners to describe enslaved Africans. And during emancipation and post-emancipation, in a bold and powerful act of reclamation, Africans flipped the script and used that characterization to scare and mock their former oppressors. Okay, so forward. I don't know what. Okay, I don't know. The picture of the Vejigantes didn't load, but yeah, let's just go forward. Okay. So here we have, again, side by side, we have the Lancet in Haiti, and the Nyang Nyang from Bafoussam, Cameroon. And do you see a difference? There's no difference. There is no difference. You would think that is the Caribbean, right? But one is from the Caribbean and one is from Cameroon, West Africa. Okay. So one of the things that's very important to know is that within West African spiritual traditions, there's no concept of the devil, right? So it is virtually impossible for that to be a part, for that to be the true meaning of the jab jab. And the symbolism of the jab jab, like the horns, the being covered in the black molasses, or cane syrup, or charcoal, the chains, all of those have very specific meanings. The horns are a sacred symbol among African people, from West Africa to North Africa to East Africa. They represent authority and power and fertility, and very sacred, going all the way back to the ancient Nile Valley civilization, to Inter Herheru, which is the Inter of beauty and dance and the arts. So the horns, the symbolism of the horns is something that's very ancient and powerful and has nothing to do with the devil at all. Okay. So I want to share this quote from Ian Charles of Jambalasi, Grenada, which is one of the cultural groups that's responsible for preserving Jab Jab. And he says, Jab Jab would take everything slave owners said was wrong about them, their blackness, their wildness, and amplified it and took it to the streets. And then there's another quote here from Debunking the Myth of the Evil Jab Jab. This is protest theater, no devil worship. It's the ultimate clapback. If you call me a devil, I'll be the best devil you ever seen. Okay? So I want to talk a little bit about the masquerade attire. And this is found both in West African and Caribbean masquerade. You have the horns, whether they could be bull, from the bull, the ox, or antelope. Raffia, which is dried palm. Cloth, ribbons, yarn tassels, ankle bells, mesh wire mask, a wooden mask, cowrie shells, cardboard. Go for it. Sisal. A lot of the whips were made from sisal, leather, sequins, paper mache, and then you have whips, gloves, charcoal, molasses, and paint. And all of these are used to express a plethora of masquerades here in the Caribbean and West Africa. And some of the instruments specific to Caribbean masquerade are the fife, snare drums, kettle drums, bass drums, triangle, ukulele, tambourines, maracas or shak-shak, and a tailpipe. So now I'm coming to the end of my presentation, and you can see here just the different types of masquerade that we have here in the Caribbean. This one is hailing from St. Kitts. This is a St. Kitts masquerade. And then we have a masquerade from Montserrat. You notice the Madras. And the Sensei from Dominica. And the Sensei actually have traced their masquerade to Ghana, to the Tree-speaking people of Ghana. And it's very important to note that during emancipation and post-emancipation, you will see a similar story throughout the Caribbean where, well, let me go before. So during slavery, European elite, they would have their masquerade balls and dress up and express their culture, which was forbidden to Africans. And what did we do? We was like, okay, we have our own thing. So in secret, we would perform our own expression through music and dance and draw from some of the West African traditions and later also incorporate European characters. And over time, this celebration that was done in secret developed into carnival, okay? So during emancipation and post-emancipation, now that freedom is very real for the former enslaved Africans, we see the development of just all types of carnivals throughout the Caribbean. In Trinidad, it started with the Cambule festivals, Real Mass in Dominica. I mean, it's just everywhere in the Caribbean you can see this similar story, the root of carnival being masquerading. And of course we have mokojumbis, which again, mokojumbis in Africa are mokojumbis in the Caribbean. It has not changed much except for the loss of the rituals associated and the actual spirit being invoked. So that was, I don't know why it's not loading, but that's also an image of the jambol, which is a masquerade here in the Caribbean that can be found in so many Caribbean nations and countries. It's has a horns on top of it with a raffia skirt and a wire mesh mask. And of course, all of these different types of cloth. The jambol found also in St. Croix and in Antigua, and like I said, in many other Caribbean islands. That's it? Okay. I really wish that picture of the jambol came up. But so yes, that's my presentation. And as you can see, there was no way to cover all of the other masquerades, the clowns, Jonkonu. It's just the Midnight Robbers. Oh gosh, there's just so much. The clowns, there's just so much. So that's just a little snippet of what we have here. And thank you so much for your time.
No, it's informative.
Could I get my, I left my
Pen?
my thing right there.
What's that thing? Oh.
Oh, okay.
I can't see.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Good evening once again. My name is Baba Oni Fade Olowu. I am a son of the Caribbean. I am originally from Trinidad. I am a priest of Egungun, which is the sacred spirit being of ancestral traditions of the Yoruba people. I am also an Ifa priest. And it's important for me to be very candid with you in this presentation. One of the things that I find very, very alluring is the fact that outside of Africa, the Caribbean hosts and celebrates the greatest number of these spirit beings anywhere on the planet. Notice I'm trying my best to evade the term masquerade. So if you hear me say it again, I want you to check me, okay? The whole idea of the tradition is understanding, first of all, that if we look at the term masquerade, it is supposed to be or represent a falsehood that is perpetuated. George Benson said it probably the best. We're lost in this masquerade. Right? He said it. He sang it. He talked about it. But African people are found, not lost, found in that entity. Because that entity holds our history, it holds our identity, and it holds our future. And it does that because it is our family. It is the way that the Yoruba people have defied death and have claimed immortality. We live on this physical plane, but there's an entirely different world, which I refuse to call heaven. So if you hear me say heaven again, check me. I will call it Ajuleorum, because that's what it is to us. Because when we use words like heaven, you have a certain mindset. When you have words like masquerade, you think you're hiding something. And so let's really get candid about this. If we are, and not really if, but when we do return to the understanding of what these spirit beings are, we have to be able to honor the essence from which they evolved. And quite frankly, they're very much still alive with us today. While we may be able to start with an understanding that the masquerade that we know, these beings that we know, might be a collective group of ancestral spirits, they are much more than that. These beings are not just a bundle of bones. They are not just some effigy that we have constructed as a result of having ancestors. And we all know that as living beings, someday we're going to leave this planet. Someday we are going to transition into that realm, that space, Ajuleorum, and become spirit beings. But not all of us are going to become Egungun. That is reserved for those who have distilled their character, those whose moral compass have been set on earth to demonstrate, to show, and lead others. those who have made a significant contribution to the upliftment of humanity in whichever way they did, they are able to ascend the 16 ladders, according to the Yoruba, of their evolution, to be at one of the highest peaks, which is to be a revered and deified ancestor, known as Egungun. I came upon Egungun perhaps back in the early 1980s, when I was part of the very first attempt to bring Egungun to the United States, to the diaspora, even though we knew that it did exist in Brazil for over 200 and 300 years. We were present there in the United States, and it's so interesting because Egungun at that time did not catch in the United States, but it was brought to be able to, quote unquote, by the woman who brought it to the United States, to forever break the psychological chains of freedom, of slavery, of our people. Her name was Shango Funke Obubumi Egbe Funke Agbeke. At the time, she was my first godmother in the tradition. I had just left Trinidad because my ancestors told me that I had to leave. So I packed up my life as a marine research biologist and as a musician, and I headed out. Like a crazy, crazy young man. My mom and dad asked me, son, where you going? I don't know. Son, what you gonna do? I don't know. Son, where you gonna stay? I don't know. But I had something. I had a faith. I had a purpose. I had a belief. They had come to me. They had spoken to me. They took a glass of water and moved it across the table like that. And if I went around telling people what I saw, they would have locked me up in the crazy house in Trinidad. They took me down to the beach. They told me, go on the journey. I went, I experienced the transatlantic slave trade. I felt it, every lash of the whip, every stench in the hall of the ships, the fear, the surrender, the resistance, the death. And when I got to Africa, I vowed in my initiation that I will always bring my people home. So I'm about being truthful about this idea of these beings that have shown up all over the world. So please join me. Can we go to the very first opening, please? Here, can you see? Is this, I know it's not the best, but yes? Okay. So I'm going to focus, by the way, a big round of applause for Shango Yomi. She did an excellent job in her presentation. Thank you so much. As a matter of fact, she saved me a lot of work and will probably allow me to speak on different aspects of these sacred beings. If you just look at this picture, you will see the force, you will see an entity that is undescribable, incomprehensible, uncontrollable force of nature. And the very interesting thing is that all of this is documented in the sacred literary corpus of the Yoruba people, which is the corpus of Ifa. Ifa being the arch-divinity, the father of divination of the Yoruba pantheon of divinities. And in that understanding, there are 256 odus, of which there are 600 to 800 verses, which relate to about 208,400 verses of spiritual poetry that are permutations of energy that affect humankind at any point in time since time immemorial. And one of those, as a matter of fact, several of those are about this undescribable, uncontrollable being that was sent from Ajuleoru to Ile Aye. So I will start with the understanding that probably is most comfortable for all of us, which is the fact that Egungun represents, in part, our ancestors. And those ancestors are a collective group that lead back to the primordial ancestor. Give me the next slide, please. Oh, it's going to be one of those nights. So, the idea of the one that we had when you were up, actually. That one, but it's not coming through. There we go. So, no, go back. Yeah, this one. Yeah, the second one. Yes, it's hard to see. I put the writing up here so that you can see it. So central to the Yoruba belief system and life on earth is the ongoing active interaction between the living and those who have transitioned. As Shangoyomi said, the Yoruba understand that everyone has an ancestor, and we know that nobody can actually exist without an ancestor. The truth is that we are all sitting here as the sum total expression of all of our ancestral experiences. That's a reality. It doesn't matter where you come from. That blood is in your veins. So it is a representation of immortality. This is where the Yoruba defy death, because we believe that they are living and present among us, that we can invoke them, that they can actually come to us, and they can help us in times of need. They can bring medicine, they can bring healing, they can drive away negativity, they can bring babies, they could give you money, because nobody loves you more than mommy and daddy. And that's who they are. In a lineage that goes all the way back. Your father's father, your father's mother, your mother's mother, your mother's father, going all the way back. That blood belongs to you. That DNA belongs to you. That spiritual DNA belongs to you. And that's who they are. They tell us then that they can no longer, they have already died, so nothing can conquer them. And in this understanding, we find that Egungun becomes a very, very sacred and central aspect of Yoruba belief and Yoruba theology. So we believe that the departed family is never far away and that they are often buried in the home, because the Yoruba didn't have cemeteries. It wasn't part of the culture. The families lived on a particular land. And wherever that land was, wherever that house was, that's where the bones were put. When I went to Yoruba land to initiate to Ifa, I slept in the room where the entire family was buried. And I didn't sleep on a bed. I slept on the ground. They were right under me. And there was a hole at my foot about the size of that hole right there, where they would go and bring food and drink and pray to all of the family lineage. And I laid right there. Yep, in the embrace. Unafraid. Unapologetically unafraid. And that was my introduction. And so this aspect of Egungun, these ancestors are believed to protect, heal, guide, bless, and punish. If you mess up, they whip you. I remember once I messed up. I mean, I really messed up. This is no joke, guys. I'm putting my life out here, right? I messed up so bad. One morning I woke up with a black eye. I didn't fight anybody. I didn't do anything. I didn't go anywhere. I can't tell you what I did. But I woke up with a black eye and I had to call out that day. I couldn't go to work. I didn't feel a punch, but I had the biggest and blackest black eye you have ever seen in your life. And I got it from my ancestors. Believe me, every town in Yoruba land has its sacred Egungun grove. We call it Egbale Egungun, which is the sacred forest of Egungun. That's where I welcomed you tonight. And the understanding here is that with Egungun, although Egungun is available to everyone, there are very, very important secrets of Egungun that cannot be shared outside of the inner circle of Egungun priests. So, for many, Egungun can be considered a secret society. We heard our elder talk about the fact that, their mothers and fathers would always send the kids to bed while they did these things in secret. And so the element of fear could also be there when you eventually come upon the fact that your mother or your father is this being. That's a secret. And so a lot of Egungun is shrouded in secrecy. Even the attire represents the shrouding of something that is secretive, something that is powerful, something that is undescribable, something that is incomprehensible, something that is uncontrollable. Because it can turn upon you like that. If your character is not clean, if you're doing the wrong things. So, if we were to look at this all together, we would see that we can go to the next slide. Here's an Egungun chant from the Odu Ogbe Alara. And it says, Ba aba roloro eni, soro soro laoda. Adifa fun orumela. Ifan lo begumule lagbala. Mo begumule mo diwing. Orumela elasoji. Oni mo begumule mo diwing. Oni mo begumule mo diwing. Ifan lo begumule lagbala o. Oni mo begumule mo diwing. This says, when you encounter a confidant, we sometimes become talkative, divine for Orumela, when going to enter covenant with his ancestors in the sacred grove. The same sacred grove I just told you about. I entered covenant with my ancestors and became immortal. Orumela, whose name is Elasoji, if I made a covenant with his ancestors in the sacred grove, I have made a covenant with my ancestors in the sacred grove. I have become immortal. The covenant with the ancestors is that which we call Egungun. It is where we never die. It is where we overcome even the greatest loss that we can consider on earth. It is where we overcome death. And much more. Next slide, please. Uh-oh, we're going to go through that again? I guess we will. So, let me start taking you through some stories. I want to tell you how these beings got here. You know, let's go past that. Let's keep rolling. Okay, so here are some egungun. This cloth that you see, is what we call eku. Now, even in Yoruba land, you would hear them say sometimes masquerade. The term has become somewhat prolific throughout Yoruba land, but I am still resisting, hoping for a day when we can reclaim. So we call this eku. Let's move past the one on the extreme. No, stay there. Move past the one on the extreme left. Look at the one hanging in the middle. That is my personal egungun. The one to the right of my personal egungun is my father's egungun. When my dad passed, I had an egungun consecrated for him because that was my man. That was my dad. That was the man who raised me and taught me so much in life and still continues to teach me and still continues to visit me. Have you ever walked into your room and felt somebody lying down on your bed? I know you have. My dad does it all the time. Dad just pops in. So, unafraid, I welcome him. Hey, Dad. How you doing? You know, when you need something to drink, you need something to eat. And I lay down on the bed and I have a conversation with my father. Because at any point in time, in ceremony, I can bring his masquerade out and I can carry his spirit. I can dance my father's spirit. And I dance like him. I dance like how he moves. And he shows me, when I carry that masquerade, how I am supposed to dance. Interesting. Let's go. So I'm going to tell you a story of the origin of egungun. I have 3 stories to tell you. I will try and be brief. Try, I said. But these are not short stories. Ile mi. Everybody say that for me. Ile mi. Okay, I know you're here. Ile mi. Much better. That means that the world is shaking, the earth is shaking. And there was a time after the earth had been formed and had been populated that the earth started to shake. And the people on earth were afraid. They saw that they were experiencing colossal loss, death. And so they went to Orunmila and they said, Baba, what can we do to prevent this kind of loss? What can we do to stabilize the earth? Orunmila at that time used to travel between Ile Aye and Ajuleorum, because since the earth was still very new, he would always report to Olodumare, our creator spirit, to let Olodumare know what was happening on earth. So he left Ileaye and went to Ajuleoru to let Olodumare know that the earth was shaking. Olodumare promised that he would send some beings to stabilize the earth. Now, you have to think about this. Let's put a little bit of science here, right? Let's give a little bit of science. You know that when the earth was formed, it was one mass. Pangea. And from Pangea, we had breakaways to Gondwana land, Eurasia, and all those other things that eventually moved far and far apart based on plate tectonics and what was called back then continental drift. But the center of that earth, the center of that Pangea form, was actually Ile-Ife to the Yoruba people, which still stands today, which I just came from. Because Ile-Ife is where all of the divinities came down, and according to the Yoruba, that's where humanity began. And so there's lots of theory in the story of creation that the earth spread from Ile-Ife. And when the earth spread from Ile-Ife as a result of tectonic forces, the earth was shaking. There were volcanoes. There were earthquakes. Land masses were becoming submerged. So the people on earth at that time reached out to their divinities. How do we stop this? The people in Ile-Ife, when they found out that Olodumare would send these beings to stabilize the earth, the people in Ile-Ife were like, well, you know, what are they going to do that Shango, who's here, can't do? We have Ogun here. Why can't Ogun take care of this? Obatala is here. Oramfe is here. What are they going to do that these divinities cannot do? And so the people of Ile-Ife shunned the idea. Olodumare did send those spirit beings, and they were called Alaba. Say it for me. Yeah, you know how this thing happens these days? They say their name. Alaba. And these Alabas were these spirit beings who were sent to earth. They had no face. You couldn't see a face, like you could see Shango's face or Orumila's face. They had no face. They were all covered up. They even looked amorphous. But they had lavish clothing, the quintessence of sartorial splendor. And we call that their Eku. So these beings came, they went to the king Odudua, who is the father of the Yoruba people, then the Oni of Ile-Ife, and said, we are here for this mission. They went to Orumila for divination so that everything would come out good, and then they scattered all over the earth, all over the continents. They had to plan at Orumila's house, where were all these tremors? Wherever they went, they found the places where they had tremors. We have the Caribbean plate that's still moving. We have the Atlantic plate that is moving. We have the Eurasian plate that is moving. We just had Santorini that had about 3,000 earthquakes in like 2 weeks. We have California poised for shakes. We have volcanoes that have erupted from Pompeii to Mount Helena. But these beings were sent to stabilize the earth. And they came and they went to all of those places. After many, many years, the people on earth realized that the earth became stable. And that it was a result of the work of those spirit beings. The people of Ile-Ife even now had to acknowledge the fact that their life became much better. And so Some of them went for divination to Orumela after these spirit beings had migrated to a town because nobody really wanted to have them around. I mean, you know, who would host them? The only person who hosted them for a time while they were doing their work was Orumela. And then they left and they went and they founded a city called Oje. It is interesting that people who are initiated to Egungun have names like Oje Tola, Oje Yemi, because it comes from the idea that city or that entity founded that city called Oje. You are therefore a child of the town of those Alaba. And so they were told by Orumela, those beings really did amazing work in our lives. Perhaps you should make special offerings to them. Maybe you should dress like them to honor them and celebrate them and bring them out every so often. The term gung means something that has come from somewhere and landed. Another gung, the same intonation, also means bringing focus and alignment. So the term egungun means the ones who landed and brought alignment and stability to the earth and to our lives. And that is what we call today that word. That's why they are here. Because according to the Yoruba, they were sent all over the earth. What became Ecuador, what became Panama, what became the Caribbean, wherever there is a being whose face is covered in extremely splendorous cloth, is considered one of those beings. And that's the spiritual origin of Egungun, according to the Yoruba. You can go past like about 3 slides until the next story. Next quick story. We were told that there was negative spirit beings when human beings were coming to earth. In this Odu, which is called Otrupon Meji, Ifa tells us that there were negative beings and there were human beings. They both were coming from Ajuleorun to Aye. They were both told that when they are coming, they needed to make sacrifice so that things would be good for them. Human beings, just like who we are, human beings said, nah, I'm going to do what I want to do when I get there. The negative being said that they were coming to earth specifically to mess up what people do. That's why we all experience 2 steps forward and 10 steps back. It is a result of that understanding that something trips us up because we did not make the appropriate ebo or appropriate sacrifice. So, as an antidote to those negative beings, human beings were told to cover themselves in cloth, to create an egungun that would drive that negativity away. And so those beings that we call that name have a significant purpose in our lives and in our world. Other than stabilizing the world and aligning us, changing, enhancing our existence, they are also there to drive away this negative force. And I'm telling you, if you've never seen this, and I have witnessed it with my own eyes, I was in one of those towns in Africa, Odiremo, when and Egungun came and ran through the town with a whip. Towards the end of the presentation, I'll tell you about the whip. Ran through the town with the whip, beating the air, smashing the air, running through houses. And listen, when an Egungun in full possession, because, you know, sometimes you might need a human being to carry. But sometimes it is not a human being, as we saw in one of those masquerades. That spirit takes over, and it's uncontrollable. And everybody is running helter-skelter to try and save their lives. It doesn't matter who you are. You clear the way. That masquerade is coming through. So, in this particular story, in Otrupon Meji, we are told that human beings were told to create an Egungun in order to drive away the negativity. Next 3 slides. The next story and final story I'll tell you of the origins of Egungun, these spirit beings, is one that might be a little crude to your understanding. But I'm going to break it down. This is the story from Oworin Osa, Oworin Osaying, the Odu of Ifa, in which a red colobus monkey, Idimere, some say it was more of a gorilla-like primate, was in the forest when a woman was going to fetch firewood. The monkey saw the woman going to fetch firewood and decided that he wanted to have her. And so the monkey raped the woman. I told you it would be a little crude. Bear with me. The woman became pregnant. She was devastated. She decided she would return to the forest where she had met the monkey and try to trap the monkey. She would set a trap for the monkey. So as she was collecting firewood, she purposely moved her body in a way that was suggestive. And when the monkey became excited, she released the trap on his member. The monkey died on the spot and stayed there. The woman gave birth to a young man who became a king. Listen to this story. He became a king. And in his kingdom, none of his wives could get pregnant. It was important for a king to have heirs to his throne. None of his wives could get pregnant. So they went for Ifa divination. At Ifa divination, the family was told that there was a secret that was being hidden, and that the king had to go and bring his father's bones home. He had to venerate his father in order to solve the problem that they were experiencing. The mother then had to confess what had happened in the forest because she had never told anyone. As soon as they went to the forest, they found the bones of the father. And to keep it a secret, to not let anybody know, they shrouded the bones of the father in long flowing cloth. And they paraded the bones of the father through the town to come back home, which is what is still done in Yoruba land today when an important person dies. They parade that person through the town, shrouded in cloth. They might carve an effigy for that person to represent that person. But they dance and they drum and they sing. Baba's bones are coming home. Iya's bones are coming home. According to the Yoruba, this was also the birth of Egungun. Because now here you had the shrouded encapsulation of the bones of the king's father that needed venerating in order for him to have an heir to the throne. Now, this story tells us a lot. It's not just about Egungun. It tells us about the primal force that there is to attack women sexually. It tells us that that is absolutely unacceptable in Yoruba tradition, and that there are serious consequences if and when that happens. It also tells us that women should not be silent. They should not be complicit with an act that disrespects them in such a way, because it will have significant consequences passed on to future generations. So here we have a story of the birth of Egungun wrapped up in the foundational concept of the balance of society, which lies with women. And the Yoruba have known this for hundreds of thousands of years. Rape is something that hardly exists in Yoruba land. Probably because that story has permeated throughout. And they know that if Egungun finds out that that's what had happened, hasta la vista, baby. The punishment would be so severe. So just think about that for a second. Let's go past all of this. Here, give me that picture. Here, this is the face of the patas monkey that I was talking about. Okay, we can go past that. Go back. The first, right there. So the first Egungun, so those are stories handed to us from Ifa, right? I gave you 3 stories on the origin of Egungun, all very, very embedded in society and human need. Now check this out. In the historical record, not the theological record, in the historic record, there was a carver by the name, I'll read his name out for you. His name was Esa Ogbin Ologbojo. He was a carver and he was a theatrical performer, but he was a master carver. And they said that he carved the first masquerade and carried the first masquerade ever in collaboration with the mother of the Alafin of Oyo, whose name was Abiodun Adegoriola, and his mother's name was Erubami Abimbowo. Okay, stay with me. I just told you a story about a mother, a son who became king, right? And here we have now, on the historic record, a carver who created the first masquerade and carried the first masquerade and had the first Egungun festival, who collaborated with the mother of a king who was the Alafin of Oyo. And this is where this all started. And my friends, this is 1774 to 1789. And it's on the historic record. Yes? Okay. I have 2 more slides. Hit me. This is one, you can't see this. I wish you could see this. This is one of the oldest photos of a masquerade ever taken. I don't have the date on it, but there has been no other photo that is older than this masquerade. And when I go back, I have to check and see if I can find the date of this masquerade. Go ahead. One more. The significance of this. I'm just going to read this for you because we're out of time. You must not see my face. No one can ever see Orombo. Whenever the Agan comes out at noon, mysterious tornadoes will rage, toppling trees, and palm falling upon palms. Dense forests will be set ablaze, and savanna fields will burn down completely. If our divination was cast for Mafoju Kami, do not confront my gaze, is the one who is called Agan. So, the last thing I want to tell you is that many of the masquerades, quote unquote, that we see in the Caribbean, many of these beings carry a whip. Have you seen that? Do you have those who carry a whip here? Okay. The original whip was a stick called atori, because back in those days, right, and I'm talking about the original days, right, there was nothing that they would beat you with like this. So what was used was a stick called atori. Now, in Ifa tradition, everything that is created has a consciousness. The snail is a babalao. The leaf of a tree is an Ifa priest. An animal, a plant, a rock, the water, everything has Olodumare's consciousness. And so atori, which was that particular stick, was a very close friend of Egungun. And Atori helped Egungun defeat his enemies. So Atori and Egungun became close, and anywhere Egungun went, Atori went. So Egungun would lash out with that stick, which eventually turned into a whip in the New World. Okay? Egungun bawa se, egungun bawa se, iba egungun, mope egungun bawa se, egungun bawa se, egungun bawa se, iba egungun, mope egungun bawa se. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Baba. We are going to close the night. Anybody have any questions for our guests and for Baba? Mr. Haynes, can we just get, while Kendall is playing some music, Mr. Haynes, can you help us in presenting some of the gifts to our panelists? And I'm wishing you Oh, you turned Miss Asta around. Great evening, and we're going to play some music for you to leave us, or if you want to have more conversations with persons on the panel or within our community here. Take some more drinks with you.